sure the message is clear. Nigel, come on up, brother. We need you to hear what you have to say. Same haircut, you notice? Same haircut.
Same barber. Good morning. Firstly, this speech will not be politically correct. If you are offended, then I suggest you find a safe area for the next 20 to 30 minutes. When I first moved to America 10 years ago, I saw a different America to what I see today. Americans seemed happier, less burdened by government. 10 years later, I see a divided country. Everything in this speech is related to the Constitution and the Second Amendment, because you cannot just single out one thing. It's either or the Constitution or nothing. Freedom or slavery. The Second Amendment is just one part of the Constitution, together with the First Amendment, which includes freedom of speech. Two God-given rights that they no longer have in the United Kingdom. Just imagine for one moment if you no longer had those freedoms. Imagine how you would feel, and how you would feel for your children, knowing they will never experience the freedoms that you once had. That is the reality for my fellow Englishmen today. They lost their freedoms 20 years ago, and because of 2 decades of generations, the current generation does not miss what they never had. So the God-given right to own a firearm is lost forever. How many lives and victims are acceptable? The answer to that question is none. I am an immigrant. I am a veteran. I will help defend the American flag and the Constitution. The American immigration system is not broken. It is fair. However, the process has been infiltrated and is being used as a weapon to flood immigrants and refugees into America. President Trump is fighting against this, but he needs our help, because the situation has reached a point where politicians and some state representatives would rather spend your money bringing in people who hate America and American values, just so they can get their vote. Refugee status is not a constitutional pathway to citizenship, and hopefully Donald Trump and the representatives that you elect can fix this. Why would you want to invite hundreds of thousands of people to come to a country that have no loyalty towards the Constitution, do not support it, and would prefer to have it replaced? So where does the threat come from to the Constitution and to the Second Amendment, and how do we fight back? The threat comes from elected politicians that have no loyalty to America, but only their agenda. The threat comes from the media, universities, colleges and schools that have been infiltrated at all levels. Each generation is being weakened by the education system. It is fully intentional, and it is the only way they can destroy America and the Constitution. Children are being taught to hate America, just so the left can achieve their agenda. Instead, they should be taught about the Constitution, freedom and liberty. They should be taught about the Second Amendment. The threat also comes from the judicial system, which decides which constitutional laws they enforce and which ones they will not. The threat also comes from radical Islam, because I hear nothing from the Muslim community condemning any of this. Islam is not a religion, it is a totalitarian political ideology. So it is not protected by the First Amendment, and you cannot be racist because it is not a race. I am not hateful towards Muslims and welcome them that want to live the American dream, but not the Islamic supremacist dream for America. A quote from Edmund Burke: "Evil prevails when good men fail to act." That statement applies to Muslims as well as Christians and all patriotic Americans. Europe, including the United Kingdom, have bent over backwards to try to help refugees, and they have been rewarded with murder, rape and Sharia law. The United Kingdom will never have the same opportunity that America has had. You were saved by your Constitution. The Constitution is not a living, breathing document. Imagine if you could not elect your president, but only your House representative. If that was the case today, your president would probably be Paul Ryan. This is the problem they have in the United Kingdom. You can elect your member of parliament, but they then select who will be prime minister. It's a small club, and they only keep it to themselves. So someone like Donald Trump will never be elected. This means they will not have the same opportunity to clean the swamp which has filtered down to all levels of society, from the judiciary to the local schools and township.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In London, they expect and accept it as part of living for terrorist attacks. Do you really want to create a society where everyone is suspicious of everyone else and wonder when the next terrorist attack will be and how many people will be killed? They have dumbed down society so much that being attacked is now part of life and acceptable. No, it is not part of daily life, and it should never be accepted. At least in America, you can shoot back and defend yourself and your family, even though some politicians believe you do not have that right. As more and more terrorist attacks occur across this nation, and they will continue to happen, the left and the progressive politicians will use this to try to bring in more gun control legislation. Let this be a warning. You cannot rest, and you must always stay vigilant. Never give up and never surrender. In 10, 20 or 30 years from now, when Europe falls, you won't have to worry about the nuclear threat from Iran, because the nuclear threat will come from a radically Islamic-controlled United Kingdom, France or Pakistan. They already have nuclear weapons and are within striking distance. France almost had a chance to fight back with the recent election, and Marine Le Pen losing. I do not think they will recover from that without a civil war. The warning to America here is that once you reach the point of no return, it is impossible to recover. You cannot wait for that turning point to be reached. I believe this is the most dangerous time in history for America, because even during the Civil War, at least both sides still loved America. Today, there is hatred towards America from Americans themselves. Why is this important, and why have I included it in this Second Amendment rally? It is because Islam believes through the Quran, the Hadith and the Surah that Sharia law is above the Constitution. So it is a direct threat to the Constitution and all 27 amendments, which is why we are here today to show our support. Muslims are the majority in about 49 countries, and there are about 195 countries in the world. It was reported in 2010 that there are 308 million Americans, estimated at around 350 million Americans today. In 2010, 7 years ago, there were reported around 1.6 billion Muslims, 1/4 of the global population. It's estimated that there are approximately 15 to 25% radical Muslims. This means that there are between 240 million to 400 million radical Muslims 7 years ago that wish to destroy America and the Constitution. And this doesn't include sympathisers that are supportive towards their cause. This is a real problem and needs to be discussed and addressed. The threat also comes from an Article 5 convention, or Convention of States, which could end up rewriting the Constitution. They will try to disguise it as a balanced budget amendment, or to create term limits for politicians. Term limits already exist. The people are the custodians of term limits. Would you have applied term limits to the Founding Fathers? The Founding Fathers were farmers, fresh with feelings from the sacrifice of war. Today's politicians are some of today's politicians are professional bureaucrats, and some of them have never done a day's work in their career. Some politicians have let us down, but it's the people that vote for those politicians. So what do we do? How do we fight all the evil around us? And how do we defeat the enemy? And I say enemy because that is what we are fighting against. There are a lot of people out there that have been misguided, given wrong information, and they believe what they have been told and do not question it. Now, the people controlling and manipulating them, they are the enemy of America. For the misguided people, we need to find ways of reaching out to them. And this has to be done in a compassionate and caring way, not argumentative, that will only harden their views. The politicians, Republican and Democrat have both let us down, and it's time to rebuild them. Watch out for politicians that want to change political parties but do not want to change their political ideas and views. They just want to get elected and will join any party to do that. Always remember that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, not the Supreme Court, and Congress can only make laws within its constitutional bounds. National reciprocity already exists under the Constitution, but Congress has allowed the Supreme Court to claim otherwise. And the people have allowed Congress to get away with it. We are fighting for something we already have. It's not the Supreme Court's decision, but we have allowed it to get to that stage. The states do not have a right to decide which constitutional rights they agree with and which ones they do not. Our current strategy is that we react and then we fight. We occasionally go on the offensive, pigs to nix, national reciprocity. But what are we fighting for? What is the American mission statement? The Obama apology tour has filtered through to our young. People now apologise for wearing and flying the American flag because it offends non-Americans. If you are offended by the American flag, then leave America. Yeah. Get out! Our strategy must be education, our currency, information, and our weapon, the truth. With these three things in mind, we can win. Ladies and gentlemen, if we implement these three methods with courage, honour, dignity and integrity, words that are no longer taught in the education system, then we can win. No longer should we turn a blind eye to schools that suspend a child for wearing an NRA t-shirt or having a cookie that looks like the shape of a pistol. Find out who these school board representatives are and get these people replaced at election time. Emailing them and writing to them will not change their agenda. It will only slow them down. For those of you here last year, we gave the Lord's Prayer. I would like to say a few words this year. Dear Lord, you have given us the Constitution, and we have allowed greed and evil to poison the minds of some of those who have sworn to protect it. Guide us and give us strength to know what to do. Help us with our decisions. We remain your humble servants. Amen. Now for some good news. Senator Casey will be up for re-election in 2018. A few things to think about. He supported the Affordable Care Act, unconstitutional. He supported the 1994 assault weapon ban. He supported magazine capacity reductions. It says on his website that he strongly supports the Second Amendment. Clearly, he has no idea. He supports sanctuary cities. Senator Casey voted no to stop sanctuary cities and Protect Americans Act. Senator Casey voted no to declaring English the national language. Even Democrat Senator Arlen Specter voted yes on that one. Senator Casey does not have the American interests and freedoms in his agenda. Oh, and Senator Casey co-sponsored the Denying Firearms and Explosive to Dangerous Terrorist Act. This would deny firearms to anyone on the terrorist watch list. But it's a secret list with no due process. Any one of us could find ourselves on any of these lists. All of this chips away at the Constitution. The Second Amendment is only good as long as 51% of the people support the Constitution. Once this country reaches 51% of the people against the Constitution, then it will just become a piece of paper and the Constitution will be lost. Remember, America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. A constitutional republic which protects 100% of the people. Article 1 of the Constitution gives the power to Congress. Article 2 of the Constitution gives the power to the President. And Article 3 gives the power to the judiciary. How many young people today could even name 5 of the 27 amendments? How many young people today could list the 5 freedoms from the First Amendment? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom to petition the government, and freedom of press. How many young people could list those 5? The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has its own constitution, and under the Declaration of Rights, Article 1, Section 21, right to bear arms, states, the right of the citizens to bear arms in defence of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. What part of shall not be infringed or shall not be questioned do they not understand? Start discussing this and the Constitution with your family, friends and neighbours. We can only give away our freedoms by consent. Do not underestimate how important you are. Everyone can play a part, and it is your duty to love and defend your country. When you go out to educate people, ask them which part of the Constitution do they not like? Which freedom do they not agree with? And remind them that the Second Amendment protects them all. Pennsylvania House Bill 610 from 2017 states that a non-refundable fee of $10 per firearm per year. Next year it could be $20, then $50 per firearm. In 2015, it was House Bill 503. They never stop trying to get these bills passed. Those politicians need to be replaced. This clearly violates shall not be questioned. in Article 21, Section 1 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Now, if the Constitution is changed, then fair enough. But what other rights do you have to pay for? The politicians cannot make laws above the Constitution. A question for you. What does it mean to be American? How do you define yourself as a people? Americans are some of the nicest and kindest people in the world. That is one of your strengths and weaknesses. If you cannot define who you are, then how can you defend it? And what are you willing to sacrifice? Every year we gather here together. Our mission to make sure that future generations never forget the price we pay for freedom. The Americans on that memorial sacrificed it all. As they watch over us from above, make sure that you make them proud. Thank you for your time in attending today. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Boy, he talks like somebody's been taking citizenship classes, doesn't he? I haven't said. Give me a sec.